Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another exciting edition of Beyond the Game. Beyond the Game brought to you by Batesville Chrysler Dodge Jeep, Gillen Howe Funeral Home, Acra Automotive, Decatur County Recycling, Walters Tire, Hamilton Tebby Law Office, and Byride Auto. Ryan Higginbotham, Tom Fleming back in the house.
You know, I can't, I can barely hear.
Okay.
Crank it up a little bit. There.
Too much?
Oh, yeah, that's good. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, maybe a little too much, but it's fine. I can't get the song out of my head now when I walked in and you started. Eminem, yeah. Guess who's back again? Shady's back. Tell a friend.
So Ryan Higginbotham, Tom Fleming back in the house. Jason Simpson live here in studio. Josh joining us live via satellite. Josh, I have to know, are you watching the Olympics curling right now? Because over the last 2 weeks, I have become not only a huge fan, I have learned a lot of things about curling I never thought I would know. And the thing is, I won't watch it again for 4 more years. But, man, that is a fun game.
Yeah, you know, I started watching it back at the 2008 Winter Olympics. No, I don't know. No, 2006. Anyway, I was in college. I remember watching it. It's probably 2010 in Vancouver. I remember me and Johnny Stewart, Tyler McIntyre, Brandon Money, all sitting around watching curling, and we were invested like people are now. And I actually bought Homage, the website with the T-shirts and everything.
Yeah.
I bought a USA Curling shirt.
Love it.
So I have a USA Curling shirt. But now that you mention it, seeing as I'm sitting down in my office on my computer, I think I'm going to turn it on because it can become electric quickly.
The U.S. women, if I am not mistaken, are competing for the bronze medal. And then did the men's team advance at all?
Out. No,
okay,
they got
so they're
knocked
not
out.
in it anymore. All right.
So the men's curling, if we're going to get into it, I guess how they do this is they have qualifications, U.S. nationals, and things like that. Well, the finals are a best of 3 series, I guess, in the U.S. nationals, and the team that has represented the U.S. in curling for at least the last 3 Olympiads, the team of like John Schuster and guys that you've probably heard of because they were the first U.S. team to ever win an Olympic gold medal. Well, they got upset by basically a bunch of no-names, younger guys that everybody on the curling scene, nobody had really ever heard of them. And John Schuster's team went all the way through the U.S. Nationals and didn't lose until they lost 2 out of 3 to this team that qualified, the men's team that qualified for the Olympics this year. So a major upset in curling.
And you know, it's amazing. Again, this is obviously a sport that we don't see very often. We see it every 4 years. It doesn't even ever show up on the Ocho. Like
No.
they don't just randomly show it. But it really came to the forefront of my mind just yesterday that it is amazing how one detail or one rule, when you learn about what it actually is, changes your entire the way that you view the entire thing. Because here I am watching it, and I understood the importance of the hammer, which is getting to have the last stone at the end of each end.
Right.
They're called ends,
Yes.
right? See, look at this. I'm like
Wow.
a curling
You know, I never imagined that we would ever talk about curling on this show. But anyway,
but I kept, like, because I was just under the impression that the hammer alternated back and forth after each end. And so it was kind of the luck of the draw. Whoever got it second to start would be the team that got it last if you made it to the 10th end. Well, come to find, because then I was like, why are they wasting their time setting up these blockers? And then where I learned it was I was watching the U.S. women in Switzerland yesterday, and they were in the 9th or the 8th end, and Switzerland was up, but purposefully knocked the U.S. out and didn't stop one of theirs in the scoring ring, because if you tie, you keep the hammer. And I didn't know that, because I'm like, why would you not score there? It befuddled me. If you score, the hammer goes to the other team. and it just totally changed the way that it just started to make so much more sense now. And I had enjoyed it before, but it really made it even more enjoyable because then the strategy started to make a lot more sense and things. I just thought it was a lot of fun. So
yeah, it's actually pretty big up here in Wisconsin and Wausau, where I live. There's actually a curling center. You can do like learn to curl, and people go quite a bit. Actually, the assistant pro at my golf course is in a curling league, and I haven't been yet, but right now is not a good time to go, right?
Because, I was going to say, I bet those places are licking their chops during the Olympics because they're probably bursting at the seams with people trying to get in there.
Yeah, we're sitting here opening our show with talking about curling, so you can imagine how busy that is. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of rules, and when you're watching curling, usually you're seeing like the last 4 stones or rocks being thrown, and you would just be like, well, why wouldn't the first team throw it, and then you would just keep knocking it out until the end? Well, there's strategy and there's rules involved, and you have to leave it right here before you can start, after so many stones, you can start going into the 4-foot or the 8-foot or the 12-foot, or 16-foot. So yeah, it's great to watch every 4 years, and like you said last night, Jason, at this point in time in the Olympics, it really doesn't matter if you throw the stars and stripes on somebody. America's going to be tuning in.
Absolutely. And before I get to that point, I will say, fun fact, like, it makes sense that there would be curling centers in Wisconsin. Fun fact, if you are interested in trying curling, it's only about an hour and 15 minutes away. Anderson, Indiana has a curling center, and they have leagues and lessons and open ice time and things like that. So if you ever wanted to try curling, all you have to do is go to Anderson, Indiana.
And there was so much controversy in a couple of the matches. Wasn't with the Americans, but it was other matches. The British team and the Canadian team were accused of cheating by touching the stone again after they released it. It's like, who would have thought there'd be a controversy in curling?
And what's the big label that Canadians have? They're just so nice.
Yeah.
They're just so nice. Bunch of dirty cheaters.
Spare me.
Holy cow.
Spare me.
Because it was in multiple matches, and it was the men and the women. Holy cow. Yeah. Canucks, a bunch of dirty cheaters, and are going to be silver medalists tomorrow morning, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, they can't beat us in curling. They can't beat us in women's hockey, and we're going to show them tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock Eastern time that the USA is here to play men's ice hockey. They can't win Stanley Cups. They can't do anything. So, yeah, it's I can't wait for that. But, yeah, cheating in curling. Never thought I would see the day.
Well, to your point, you mentioned how I made the comment about, when it becomes USA and it's national pride and all that stuff. I know our good friend Scott used to play hockey. He loves hockey. I'll throw on an NHL playoff game because playoff hockey is intense, but I don't know if you could pay me to sit down and watch an entire NHL game just because it's not the sport itself. I just don't really have any interest in any of the players or the teams. I don't have a connection. But, man, again, I don't care if it's curling, if it's hockey, speed. I actually really love speed skating too. That is so much fun to watch. But
the short track also, I mean, that short track is crazy. They had to stretcher somebody off yesterday because they got cut above their eye.
Didn't see that.
Yeah, I mean, the Netherlands, they wore full face masks, but there's no requirement other than a helmet. You don't have to have glasses, nothing. So somebody got sliced right above their eye.
Yeah.
And I have been, obviously, anytime it's USA, I'm all for it. But if it's one of those sports that we're not good at, like biathlon and all of those things, I'm going with my Dutch ancestors.
There you go.
I go Netherlands second.
but in saying that, like, I would watch an NHL hockey game before I would watch Premier League soccer or anything like that. But as soon as it becomes World Cup, it's just – and it doesn't even have to be the U.S. And obviously, when the U.S. is in it, you tune in because it's USA. Again, it's national pride in country and all those things. but you can just feel the intensity when people are representing their homeland and their countries and the places where they're born and raised, and ancestry, and it goes through the lineage of the family. Like, you feel that national pride when people are on these teams, and man, it just ramps up the intensity and the stakes. And so, World Cup coming up, it's been Olympics these past 2 weeks. Anytime something like that happens, it just ramps it up to a whole new level. And it, regardless of the sport, I'm going to tune in and watch it because you just do get that sense of national pride.
Yeah, and you see guys, you talk speed skating, and he's not super close to where I live now in Wisconsin, but Jordan Stoltz, 21-year-old speed skater, had won 3 medals in the Olympics and going for a 4th, I think, either today or tomorrow. And he's only 21 years old. He's going to go down as, if he continues, as one of the most decorated Winter Olympic athletes of all time. You look at Nick Gepper from Lawrenceburg, Indiana, who just took a crazy spill yesterday.
Yeah, I saw that live yesterday. Ooh.
Yeah, he's lucky that nothing majorly serious happened to him. But from Lawrenceburg, Indiana, grew up at Perfect North Slopes, and then he moved out to Colorado to work, perfect his craft. But just an EIAC guy competing in the Winter Olympics, and he's done it the last handful of Olympiads. So it's just it's really cool when you see some of these stories and kind of the perseverance that people have gone through when it comes to that. So yeah, it's fun to tune into every couple year or every 4 years on the winter side. Let me ask you this question. I know we're in it right now, but do you guys enjoy the Winter Olympics more or the Summer Olympics more?
I think the winter, because it's sports that you don't see very often. It's just that once every 4-year thing. Summer Olympics, we know all of the events. We know that the United States is most likely going to do really well as far as medals are concerned, but it's a little bit more challenging, I think, with the Winter Olympics. So the Winter Olympics for me.
I'm going to say overall it's summer. I enjoy the winter, to Tom's point, because there are so many things that you don't see very often. But man, I am a sucker for track and field. I love watching those events. But the thing that I tune in for, and if there is an American in a medal race, I am not missing any swimming event. I am a sucker for Olympic swimming. And it doesn't matter if it's the sprints, the long course, it doesn't matter. I'm going to tune in for that. And then, of course, you always throw in USA basketball, and, they introduced golf a few years ago. And there's just between track and swimming and basketball, yes, I know those are fairly mainstream sports, but, man, there's just something about watching Olympic swimming. I could tune in every weekend for that.
Ryan,
yeah,
what do you think?
Go. What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, I think overall, for me, kind of to Jason's point, it's summer. I think honestly, just based on the fact that every 4 years growing up when I was a kid, you tuned in no matter what. It didn't matter if they were losing or winning a game. USA basketball was the heartbeat of that summer, and I think especially 2 years ago, when they came, I think it was against Serbia when they came back, it was the heartbeat of America for, I'd say 2 months at that point, what felt like. But I think overall it's summer, but winter is definitely, I think, the better Olympics, just because, like you guys said, there's so many new sports that you're seeing. Like, I've watched, about as much as I can watch. Let me tell you something. There was nothing better than watching curling at 5 a.m. I'm going to tell you that there's nothing better.
Yeah, to me, it used to always be the Summer Olympics, and with some of the NBA stars that we have now. I mean, obviously Steph Curry 2 years ago in the Olympics was awesome to watch, but it's really just hard to get behind guys like LeBron. It's really hard to do. So to me, it used to always be USA basketball was the biggest thing, but now I've kind of switched to USA hockey as being my number one sport in all of the Olympics. Just to see the passion with those guys play, being professional, being highly paid professional athletes. I think that is the best embodiment of American sports. And it used to be USA Basketball. And I think that is kind of switching. I think it's going to hockey. And yeah, to your point, Jason, a lot of people aren't going to sit down and watch a ton of hockey games if you're not invested. I know Scott, our good friend Scott's invested in it. I lived in Columbus for a while, so I am. I know Tom lived in Columbus. He likes the Blue Jackets. But just to watch those guys play and how much they care, and it started with the Four Nations. And, the last time, the professional players were in the Olympics was 2014. And I remember the 2010 game where Sidney Crosby scored the golden goal in overtime against the U.S. and just the heartbreak that I got from that, just being 16 years ago. So tomorrow's is obviously must watch, and everybody's going to wake up early and watch it. It's probably going to be the most watched hockey game of all time. But I'm kind of with Ryan, like, give me curling, give me speed skating, like downhill skiing. I love watching that. And, I woke up early to watch Lindsey Vonn, and unfortunately she crashed. But, that's kind of where I'm at. I don't think golf has kind of really found its format yet in the Olympics. I wish baseball and softball was in the Olympics, in the Summer Olympics, and
but
had
we're going to
professional
put
players
flag
in it.
football in.
Yep.
Make that make sense.
Yeah. I mean, and maybe the Summer Olympics just need an American sprinter that can, not be Usain Bolt because he's the greatest of all time, but really have that type of personality that can capture the United States. And boxing isn't where it used to be. And so that's just, I mean, to your point, I think to me it goes men's hockey, women's hockey, and then any swimming. Swimming's is must watch TV, and I don't know if that's all time or because Michael Phelps made it that way, and that race he had to get all those gold medals in the Summer Olympics back in 2008.
It goes back even before that. Like I remember Matt Biondi. You remember that name?
Mm-hmm.
And I just lost it.
Mark Spitz.
Well, that was before my time, but yeah, you had the Hoosier Mark Spitz. That it's just always been one of those that now you threw this out there. Let me ask you guys this, because of the popularity of it, and a lot of times it's not even Americans that are the best ones, since boxing has really, because that used to be one of the preeminent events in the Olympics. Like that's where Muhammad Ali got his start, and all these famous
Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah, all these famous fighters made their name starting in the Olympics. But because of its dip in popularity and the rise in popularity of MMA, how about the MMA in the Olympics? What do you think
That would
of
be awesome. that would be awesome. I would love to see that. I'm surprised that's never been thrown out there. And maybe Beyond the Game can speak it into existence like we do a lot of things. But MMA in the Olympics would certainly be a must-watch Olympic event.
I just wonder, with how violent it is, if they could recover quickly enough to have matches back-to-back days or every other day.
True. Very true.
And you mentioned Floyd Mayweather. I read yesterday, first of all, he's going to have an exhibition with Mike Tyson. I've had about enough of that. But Floyd Mayweather, 47 years old, 50-0 in his career, announced that he is going to make a comeback. Legitimate boxing. Well, as legitimate as it can be.
It's funny that you said that we've had about enough of the Mike Tyson stuff and things like that. But guess what's going to happen if and when that happens? You're tuning in.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, regardless of what we think about it and if it's fixed or whatever, like if it's announced that it's happening, on April 17th or whatever, like we're all going to be tuning into it. So, it's the name draw. Certainly, one suggestion that I have for the Olympics, because the IOC typically ask me my suggestions, I wish they would move the field events to a smaller, more intimate stadium, because a lot of times you'll see that they're doing the field events while they're broadcasting the track events. And I think if you could move that to a different, smaller stadium, you would get more people tuning in to javelin and shot put and long jump and high jump instead of them just cutting in when it matters.
And to your point, like when you tune into those events in the Olympics, like you'll see the competitors trying to hype up the crowd and things. So if it was in a more intimate venue, like it would be a raucous environment, I think, and like it would get really loud. But in stadiums that size, when it's not a sprint or they're coming past the entire stadium, when it's just kind of in that tiny little pocket, the sound's just going to kind of escape out of nowhere. So that would be kind of cool to see. But Tom, we kind of threw out a few of the sports here. You said last night that you were ready to talk Olympics. Is there any more specific Olympic talk you wanted to get into?
Well, first of all, to defend hockey on television is horrible. Hockey in person is incredible. There's nothing like it.
Yeah.
But on TV, you can't tell where the puck is. And you would think by now they would have found a technology that would show better on TV so you could tell where the puck is at. But it's horrible.
They
on
did
TV.
have that. They did have that a while ago, like a puck tracker.
That was horrible.
Yeah, like
that one was horrible.
Purple or blue or something,
Green.
and it trailed behind it. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was leaving.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where when watching hockey, and I watch a ton of especially Blue Jackets hockey, but if you watch it consistently, it's easier to watch on TV, if that makes sense. Like you get your brain trained to like what could potentially happen next and where the puck is. I know there's a couple times Carrie and I have been watching it, and I've been reacting like immediately as the players are reacting. We're reacting at the same time. She's like, how did you even see that the puck went in? I had no idea. And I'm like, well, I watch a lot. I'm used to it. I know, like, if they're sending it across the crease, like there could be a tip in, there could be something. But I will say, now it could change tomorrow, but that women's gold medal game, that goal in overtime, that golden goal in overtime, was one of the best moves at that time, the time in the game that I've ever seen.
Yeah, that was incredible.
Went right around her and then a backhand squeaking through the goalie. What an amazing play. And I saw some amazing pictures out of that you'll be seeing forever. And just an awesome final, the U.S. tying it up with about 35 seconds left and then winning in 3-on-3 overtime. Is there anything better than 3-on-3 overtime?
Holy cow, that is fun to watch.
It is.
Now, before Tom goes, Josh, I have to ask you this question, and I want you to think about it for a second because I think you'll know the answer. Everything that I know about hockey, and it's not a ton, but everything I know about hockey, where did I learn it from? Think about this.
NHL 94.
Boom. Hey, you didn't even have to think about it. Oh, my gosh. I played the buttons off of my, I think it was on Sega Genesis that I played it. Or would it have been the NES in 94?
It might have been Super Nintendo.
I did never have a Super Nintendo. I went from NES to Sega Genesis. I want to say it was on the Genesis. And my gosh, I was always the Chicago Blackhawks because they had Jeremy Roenick. And man, I played the buttons off of my controller in that. That was the absolute best.
That's still lauded as the best NHL game of all time. I mean, a few years ago on NHL, maybe the 23, you could actually go back and play NHL 94. They had that as like an exhibition type thing. So still lauded as one of the best sports games of all time. So yeah, that didn't take me long to figure out.
No,
because
it
I
did
knew
not.
exactly where you were going with that because such an amazing game.
Yeah. All right, Tom. Sorry.
Nope, we're good.
Oh, I didn't.
Yeah, no,
so there's
we're
no
fine.
specific Olympics events or
The-
athletes or anybody
The
that.
disappointment of what happened with Lindsey Vonn. I mean, my goodness.
Yeah.
And I sent you guys a picture that she posted yesterday of her leg after 5 surgeries. It's like to put all of that on the line to go out there at 41 years old. It was a great story, but it was kind of meant to end this way. If her career was going to end, it would end on the hill. So other than that, I'm good.
And shame on those people. Like when it comes to Lindsey Vonn, shame on those people who were trying to say what a bad thing it was that she was going to compete with this torn ACL. That's not for you to decide.
Yeah.
She is a professional athlete, and I'm sorry, they're just built different. If any of the four of us tore an Achilles right now, how many of us are going to be back doing things in 8 months?
No,
Not me.
Jason Tatum's 10 months out. He's getting ready to come
Yeah.
back. There's video of Tyrese Halliburton 7 months post-surgery dunking the basketball. Aaron Rodgers came back and played pretty well this year, and actually stats-wise, the year after it happened for the Jets, played pretty well after a torn Achilles. Like, professional athletes are just different, folks, and it's their body, it's their career. Who are you to say that, well, she shouldn't be doing that? That's too dangerous. That's not for you to decide. Now, if a doctor would say, no, it's too unstable, okay, I'm going to listen to a professional. But like these talking heads and the race announcers, oh, she shouldn't be doing it. Get out of here with that. That's not your decision.
And the accident had nothing to do with her ACL.
Exactly.
No, she skied in the warm-ups, in the practice. She was a top 3 skier in the practice. Like, where was the backlash when Tiger Woods won a U.S. Open on a broken leg and a torn ACL? When the doctor said don't do it. Like, there's no backlash in that. It was just, oh, my God, it's the greatest golf event of all time. Like, why are you going after Lindsey Vonn? She qualified. She was one of the fastest in practice. And to your point, like, her knee had nothing to do with that crash that she had. So, yeah, if the doctors cleared her, even if they didn't, but she wanted to do it because she spent her entire life training for these moments, and it happens every 4 years, like, let her do it and just enjoy watching her try to do that. Crazy to me. Crazy to me.
Totally other topic, but you just mentioned his name. Did anybody happen to catch the Tiger Woods press conference this week, boys and girls?
Oh, yeah, he's playing at the Masters.
And the reporter said, is the Masters off the table? And as dead serious as he could be, just a simple 2-letter answer, no. I'm like, oh, yeah, Tiger's coming back, baby.
There's nothing that I like to see more when reporters ask Tiger Woods questions about, exactly, is the Masters off the table? And he took like 3 seconds, gave us the Tiger Woods smile, and just said, no, it's not off the table. Like, when he's doing something that people don't expect, and he just has that little smirk on him and just kind of a little, not really condescending, but we'll say condescending, like, no, it's not off the table. And one thing that I took from that press conference was I know it's always been said, like, when, he's now 50, he can play on the Champions Tour. On the Champions Tour, it's only 3 rounds and you can take golf carts. People have always said, like, oh, he'll play on the Champions Tour, he can take a golf cart. That press conference was the first time that I'd ever heard him say, like, yeah, I'm not going to do it on the PGA Tour, but now the fact that I can take a golf cart around, absolutely I'm going to compete in the Champions Tour events. And that instantly goes from nobody cares to 100% must watch.
I will tune into a tournament that he's playing on the Champions Tour. Other than the Masters, I don't know if there's another PGA event that I would watch over Tiger being on the Champions Tour, just because it's Tiger Woods.
I don't know if there's another sporting event that I would watch over Tiger Woods playing on the Champions Tour. And Tiger Woods for the Champions Tour may do what he did for the PGA Tour. I mean, look where the purses were when he started. And now, because of the popularity and because of what he's done for the sport, they're playing in Los Angeles in a mid-season event. Now, I know it's a quote-unquote signature event. The purse is $20 million. Don't you think if Tiger says, yeah, I'm going to play 8 events on the Champions Tour, that money is just going to pour into that tour?
Probably. But, for me, if Tiger plays the Masters, I know he's won there 5 times. If he plays the Masters this year, I guarantee he will miss the cut. Guaranteed.
Yeah, I think
he's had 3 back surgeries, back fusion, had one of the discs in in his spine replaced. He had the torn Achilles, the ACL, all the other injuries that he's had. He can't compete with those guys.
Did I hear him say he not only had a back fusion, and I thought he called it a defusion, like they defused what they did. Maybe when they replaced the disc or something. I don't know. I could have sworn in that press conference he was just kind of doing the laundry list of all his injuries. I could have sworn he said a back fusion and then basically a defusion. I had never heard of such a thing, so maybe I just misheard, but like, my goodness gracious, as many times as that guy's been under the knife. But let's be honest, back surgery's 35 minutes into the show, and I have totally forgotten to ask because I restarted it last week and then forgot to put it out there. Does anybody happen to have a hot take for this week?
I had something the other day and I forgot to write it down.
Okay, well, we got to get one in the chamber then. Who wants to volunteer to go for next week so that we've got one to go?
Yeah, I'll go for next week.
Okay, all right. Yeah, because I had that one that I'd been sitting on forever and then totally forgot to get us scheduled out to do it. So I didn't know if anybody just had one off the top of their head or.
I have an answer about spinal diffusion.
Yes.
It's not a procedure. It's a MRI, a different type of MRI that measures the movement of water molecules to map the microstructural integrity of the spinal cord.
Oh.
It enables the detection of nerve damage, spinal cord compression, tumors, infections, and ischemia by visualizing changes that appear normal on standard MRI. Beyond the game. Now you know.
Yeah, we're not
Or
just a sports show. We're not just a sports show. So we do have to get. We had a good friend, Mark, here just sent me a text message. He said, "Good morning, Josh. Curling is a better sport to watch and talk about than what they are thinking when they came up with the two-man luge."
Now, I hate to say this because I don't want to get WTRE in trouble, but I really don't care. You know what it reminds me of? Do you remember back? This would have been back in the Farley, Sandler, SNL days when they used to have shorts by Robert Smigel.
Yeah.
And they were like, and there were cartoons, and they had the ambiguously gay duo, Ace and Gary or something like that. Two-man luge reminds, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, go to YouTube and YouTube the ambiguously gay duo. It was a cartoon that was, they were always like 3 or 4 minutes long that they would have every so often on Saturday Night Live. And it is an absolute riot. Do yourself a favor, and you will know exactly what Mark is talking about when he is saying that two-man luge might be the strangest Olympic event to ever be thought of. I have no idea what was going through somebody's head.
I don't understand why they came up with single in the luge. I mean, they can hit 90 miles an hour on a sled. I mean,
steering with basically their
bottom
part of their legs on those little blades, and they're putting tension on there. And then the one that's even crazier than that. How about skeleton? Luge wasn't bad enough. Let's do it head first. Like, what are we doing?
For some reason, the speeds aren't as fast in that, though.
They probably.
But they're still fast, but they're not as fast as luge is.
They probably have to tamp it down a little bit,
maybe
just for safety.
Yeah,
you're going head first.
I just want to know the first group of people that said, "Man, this luge thing is a really good idea. Why don't you lay down on top of me and let's go 2 people at a time?
Saddle up, partner."
A little Dumb and Dumber on the moped through the Rockies. You had this extra pair of gloves this whole time.
I'm going to kill you. Anyway, what's the temperature in the room for the fact that we had baseball played yesterday, boys and girls?
Whoopee. That's my thought on it.
Yours. I'm sure Ryan's a little more excited about it. Josh, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not liking. I'm semi loving the moves that my Cubs made this offseason. Still, they got to get the bullpen figured out a little bit, but I love the lineup. I think their pitching staff is going to be. I'm not going to say it's going to be one of the best in the league, but it's going to be one of those staffs that's just going to pile up wins for them. What's our temperature setting for the Reds going into this year?
As long as Bob Castellini is the owner, I'm done. I don't even want to think about the Reds.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame you, Tom. And actually, they made it even worse. They announced that his son, good old Phil Castellini, born on third base and thought he hit a triple, is now taking over. They own a little bit more than 50% of the Reds, so now he's kind of the owner. And he was the guy that famously said a few years ago, after they traded away Eugenio Suarez and Jesse Winker in a salary dump, where are the fans going to go? So he's now the guy.
Wait, Phil is the guy that said this?
Phil is the guy that said it. On opening day, nonetheless, where are you going to go? Or where are they going to go when asked about the fans?
Well, not the fairly average American ballpark.
Well, yeah, not there. So, I think that they've got one of the best pitching staffs in baseball, non-Dodgers division. Hunter Green is an ace. Nick Lodolo is a great number 2. They've got the best pitching prospect in baseball that was fantastic last year in his little cup of coffee, and Chase Burns, who was the number 2 pick overall in the draft 3 years ago or 2 years ago. So they've got an exciting pitching staff. They did some stuff in their bullpen that is exciting. And, Elly De La Cruz, nobody knew until after the season, but played the second half of the season with a tear in his quad. So that's why he didn't run as much last year. It's one of those things where in baseball you have to have a lot of good things, right? Go over the big 162, health being basically the main thing. You can see a path to the Reds, competing in the division, but they have to have a lot of things go right. Matt McClain has to bounce back. Elly has to bounce back. Suarez has to hit his 35 home runs. Rookie Sal Stewart, who was very impressive in September, he's going to have to take that step and be a bona fide, 280, 20 home run guy. I think the pitching's going to be there. I just don't know if they have too many holes in their everyday 9 at the plate. So I think they can improve on last year's 84 wins. I think I'll predict like 87 wins.
I saw a picture of Elly a couple days ago. He is absolutely jacked. He has been hitting the weights since the end of last season. And one thing that kind of bothered me with the Reds and moves that they made, I just lost the train of thought. The designated hitter guy that's from Cincinnati.
Suarez?
No.
Yeah.
The one who was with the Phillies.
Oh, Kyle Schwarber.
Yeah, Schwarber. That they did not, they were close to what Philadelphia gave him. They could have gone a little bit more and gotten him. And I think, people will say I'm crazy. Not the first time, not the last. I probably have paperwork in my medical records that says I am. But I really felt like they needed to strongly consider moving Elly De La Cruz to the outfield. His 2 seasons in the majors, his 2 full seasons, he has led baseball in errors.
Ooh.
Both years.
Ooh.
So put him in the outfield where there's not, every ball's not coming to him, a little easier on his body than playing shortstop. They've got some really good shortstops in the minors, but think about long term for him. You want him as healthy as he can be, and I think he can stay healthier in the outfield than he can at shortstop.
Could they
Plus, he has so many errors.
Could they pull an A-Rod and slide him over to third?
I don't know. I don't know if he's ever played third.
He played third a little bit in his first year, and the thing is, he's got the arm for it. He can throw 90 miles an hour with knees. But like Tom said, he leads the league in errors, so most of the time if a ball is coming to him, he's either not getting it or he's throwing it over the first baseman's head.
I gotcha.
There's a lot to be said. I mean, I get what you're saying, Tom, and thoughts cross my mind as well. He's also still just 23 years old. Guys improve; they can improve defensively. I think it's a little bit more focused for him now. He makes the spectacular plays and sometimes doesn't make the routine plays, or tries to make the spectacular play when sometimes you just have to eat it over there. Guys can improve. Barry Larkin led the NL and Ayers as a 22-year-old shortstop as well. And he turned out to be.
Oh, wait, you
good.
mean same Barry Larkin who was a better shortstop than Derek Jeter?
Yeah,
that Barry Larkin.
Not everybody can be overrated, overhyped Derek Jeter.
Okay, I'm just asking for a friend.
So,
Scott.
I think you have to continue to try Ellie there. I think you continue to work with him because he's such a freak that if he can rein it in and become just a league average defender at shortstop, you have a true unicorn when you have a shortstop that can hit 25 home runs, steal 70 bases, and cover the ground that he can cover. I think that's more beneficial in Great American Ballpark than having a guy in center field that, quite honestly, is a small outfield compared to some of the other stadiums. I mean, if they were playing in Seattle or St. Louis or something like that, potentially. But in Cincinnati, I think you really neutralize his athleticism and what he can do. So I'm okay with him staying there. But, yeah, to your point, if another year goes by that he leads the league in errors, I think you have to make a decision at that point.
Josh, let me ask you, you mentioned Ellie and said, hit 25 home runs. Is that the expectation for him? I mean, he's supposed to be the leader of the team, and I don't think 25 home runs is what the Reds are thinking. I'm thinking maybe 35 that you would want him to get to. I'm not sure 25 is enough.
I think if now that he has a little bit of protection behind him, and if he's healthy, I think teams can't really pitch around him as much when you have a guy like Suarez back there. Look, baseball's changed, and Eugenio Suarez might hit 210, and he might strike out 190 times, but he can also hit you 50 home runs, and he can change the game with one swing. Anymore in baseball, 1 for 4 with 3 strikeouts and a 3-run home run is better than 3 for 4 with no runs scored. Baseball's going away from batting average, and they're leaning a little bit more towards on-base percentage plus slugging percentage, OPS. And if you can get around that 775 and up, you're a fantastic hitter. So that's where, with a little bit more protection, maybe Ellie can get to that 30, 35 home runs. I mean, goodness, like I said, he's still only 23. And to your point, Tom, he looks like he's in the best shape of his career. So, look, I'd love 35 home runs, but I'd take 25. I could sign up for 25 right now and 70 steals. I'm taking that too. So, I think he's got to get on base and create a little bit of havoc, but having Suarez or Sal Stewart behind him is going to be a bigger deal than most people think it is.
Ryan, what do you think about what the Reds have done? And Ellie?
I think the getting Suarez back was a decent move, but I think it was out of desperation because I couldn't get Kyle Schwarber. I expect Ellie to have a phenomenal year. I think he should have a MVP caliber year, but we've been saying that for the past 2 years. I don't expect the Reds to. I think they're going to add wins, but I think the division is in a weird place where the
Cubs are obviously at the top, and then everybody else is playing for second. You can go ahead and say it, Ryan. It's fine.
It's the Brewers and Cubs division. It really is. And the Reds, Pirates, and Cardinals are just fighting for third place. And speaking on the Pirates, I think the Pirates, are going to be, halfway decent this year, and they're going to give the Reds a push for third place. But I think the Reds are in a spot now where they're just hoping to add wins and hope that keeps people in check.
So speaking of the Pirates, when is Paul Skeens signing with the Dodgers?
Give it 2 years.
Yeah, 4 years, I think, is when he's going to be eligible.
Well, what we can't say is he'll do it next year, because I'm here to tell you, folks, that unless something drastically changes, you're going to have an entire year without baseball. I don't think there will be baseball at all next year. And it's a shame, because I feel like there's, over the last couple of years, there's been some more juice in baseball. People have been a little more excited about it and things. And, you know, it had – I remember the last time there was a strike, and if again, as we've said and multiple people have said, if it weren't for Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa, I don't know where baseball is today, if we're being honest. And, you know, people are already, I say people, the people in LA love it, but, you know, people are already upset with the fact that the Dodgers just keep getting every player. And I can't be mad about it. Like, I don't love the fact that they're the team that's getting everybody, but if they're willing to pay when there are literally no guide rails at all, there's no rules to follow in baseball. I mean, why, as an athlete, would you not go there? If you're offered a contract for what they're willing to pay, why would you not go there? And
from the player's standpoint, the union for Major League Baseball is way stronger than any other union in any other sport. They don't back down.
And that goes back to the leadership of Major League Baseball. How many years? They allowed the players union to become that strong. Like, and it's almost the exact opposite of the NFL. The NFL, you know, Roger Goodell and the owners, they hold all the cards, and they acquiesce in some spots to kind of, you know, almost pat the players on the head and say, okay, we'll give you this, little Timmy, little Billy. And it's the exact opposite in baseball. The players hold 99% of the cards, and, you know, the league itself is almost a rudderless ship at this point. And I saw an article the other day that was asking the question, will President Trump have to step in? Like, it might get to the point where you have to have political push to get any leeway whatsoever, because as player, I totally get it from the player's perspective. No, we don't want a salary cap. That's ridiculous. But because they haven't yet, and you can get $400, $500, $600 million contracts, and multiple of those contracts on one team. But let's be quite honest. For the health of the league, you need to have some sort of salary cap in baseball. It just needs to happen. It's going to lead to more competitive balance. Teams like Pittsburgh won't be awful for 30 straight years like they have. Like, I think the last time Pittsburgh was good, Barry Bonds and Bobby Bonilla were playing for them, and that was back in the 90s. I mean, it is and I know maybe they have the Marlins, the Rays, whose entire salary for the entire team's salary is like what two players for the Dodgers make.
Yeah.
You know, it would add, and I mean, for you guys, the Reds don't spend money.
No.
You know, but I don't see a world, unless there is some political pushback, I don't see a world where that ever happens, because the players don't want it. And guess what? To Tom's point, because of the power that they wield, they don't have to.
Mm-mm. Nope.
You know, the only thing that they can do, and, you know, looking at some numbers, like this was from 2024, and maybe it's probably gone up. I'm sure it has. But the Dodgers, because of their TV deals, they made $752 million in revenue. $752 million. The Yankees were at 728. The Reds were at 325 million. So for all this, and no, the Reds don't spend, and neither do the Pirates, and neither do some of these other teams. I get that. But when there's a $400 million revenue disparity, it's really hard to sit there and say, well, why didn't the Reds sign Kyle Schwarber? Why didn't well, I don't know. Maybe because the Phillies made $200 million more than the Reds did in 1 year. So I think what you have to do is get it where it's a percentage of your revenue that you have to spend. And there's not a max. You want to spend it all, The Mets, now, again, these numbers are dated, but in 2024, they brought in $444 million in revenue. They spent $400 million on payroll and taxes. So they spent 90% of their revenue, whereas the Chicago White Sox were last on the list. They spent $277 million. I'm sorry, the Miami Marlins were last. They made $317 million, and they spent $86 million, 27% of their revenue.
Does that include their TV deals?
That includes their TV deals,
Wow.
yes. Yeah. So you have the majority, only the top 9 teams in baseball spent more than 50% of their revenue on their payroll and taxes. That's where the problem is. It's not the Dodgers, and it's not the Mets. It's not the teams that go out there and spend. It's the teams that don't spend. And until the owners, they're going to say that there needs to be a salary cap, but the players are going to have to say, okay, well, you have to guarantee that the floor is 50% of your revenue or whatever that number is. Or there isn't going to be. That's how you get balance. And you have to take out the deferrals, and those deferrals need to count on your salary cap. Maybe you don't have to pay them cash now, but that would have to count on your salary cap. You can't tell Shohei Ohtani you're giving him $700 million, but his money that he's getting this year is $2 million. I mean, can you imagine if whoever said, hey, LeBron, we want to pay you $100 million this year, but it's only $2 million on the salary cap? People's heads would explode.
Oh, yeah.
And that would clearly be cheating. So, there has to be a minimum. And, maybe there isn't a maximum. Maybe that's how they get around it. You can spend whatever you want, but you have to get the bottom 20 teams to agree that they have to spend at least 50% of their revenue on their payroll and taxes. I don't really know. And so if we're having these conversations, to your point, Jason, there isn't baseball in 2027.
No, and like I haven't kept up on it a ton, like as far as the specifics. Just obviously that, the collective bargaining agreement is up after this year and things. Is the big hang up right now the fact that the owners do want a salary cap and the players are saying no way?
That's the biggest thing.
The biggest thing in the
30 out of 30 owners want a salary cap, supposedly.
Even the Dodgers?
Well, I mean, I think the Dodgers would sit there in a position to say, okay, well, right now we're spending whatever, $300 million on our payroll. Like, that can be the cap. That's fine. But I read somewhere that all the owners are in favor of a salary cap. But that doesn't mean that the Dodgers are,
The Dodgers, with all that revenue that they have coming in, they had to pay luxury tax of almost equal to what their payroll was. So I can kind of understand where the ownership might want the salary cap to rein that in a little bit. But, they deferred all that money for Shohei, for Kyle Tucker. There's another one that they signed this year that they did deferred money. And they still have to come up with, well, just silly, but in Dodger talk, they gave out a $700 million contract, but to get enough money to get there, they only have to put in $433 million. So there you go.
Yeah, I think it's
beyond the game. Now you know.
I think it's something where, looking at this chart, Jason, again, this is from 2004, the Cubs' 2024 revenue was $584 million. They were 26th in payroll percentage to revenue. 26th.
Yep.
So they brought in 500. They brought in the third most of any team, but they spent the 26th most on their payroll. So to me, that's my problem. It's not the Dodgers. It's not the Mets. It's teams like the Cubs that are sitting down there making almost $600 million in revenue and spending $213 million on their payroll and taxes.
Now because initially when you said that, I was 100% on board with it, but since I have more knowledge of the Cubs, like obviously this goes back to, trying to think, was it 2018? 29 when they finally started to release all of the guys that were the core of the World Series team. And then they started their rebuild. And like you look at their roster from last year, one of the reasons that they didn't spend a ton of money was the fact that they had dudes that came up through their farm system and were still on their rookie contracts. And so when you run into something like that, how do you do you overpay specific guys, or is that going to force teams to go out? Because it would still be the player's decision whether they want to come play for you or not. So what if you can't feasibly get to a number in a year, like you're saying, like a minimum that you have to spend, a minimum percentage out of your earnings? What if you can't get to that just because of, like, you earned it through a rebuild like the Cubs did by taking what you have in your farm system and developing them and things.
Yeah, I'm looking at another thing on the Dodgers and their revenue. In 2022, 23, and 24, they were right around 500 million and then 700 million in 24. In 25, they were projected to be over $1 billion, and but at least 855 million at a minimum. So, and then you can only imagine what they'll do this year. So, yeah, it's crazy.
Josh, hold your thought. We're going to take it's the top of the hour, so we'll come back with that. Beyond the Game brought to you by Batesville Chrysler Dodge Jeep, Gillenhow Funeral Home, Acra Automotive, Decatur County Recycling, Walters Tire, Hamilton Tebby Law Office, and Buy Right Auto. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Beyond the Game. Beyond the Game brought to you by Batesville Chrysler Dodge Jeep, Gillenhow Funeral Home, Acra Automotive, Decatur County Recycling, Walters Tire, Hamilton's Abbey Law Office, and Buy-Right Auto. Tom Fleming, Ryan Higginbotham, Jason Simpson live here in studio. Josh joining us live via satellite from Parts Unknown. Going into the break, Josh, I asked the question, how exactly in baseball, because it's different than a lot of the other leagues because you've got so many people that are in your system with all the different, single A, or you got low A, you got high A, you got double A, you got triple A, you got all these affiliate teams that are under your umbrella that you can move people up the ranks and hopefully get them to the majors. What do you do if you're in the middle of a rebuild or a reboot or however you want to look at it? How would you make it possible to reach that minimum threshold if you're just flush full of talent that is your own and is homegrown and they're on rookie deals?
Well, I mean, that's when you supplement with high-priced free agents that can make your team better. The Cubs were 92-70 last year, and here was their pitching staff going into 2025. Justin Steele, who was great. He was up there in 2024 for Cy Young. Well, he had Tommy John surgery. Shoto Imanaga, who wasn't great the last 3 months of the season. A guy
he may
named
have broken
Jameson,
Major League Baseball records for the number of home runs given up. Good night.
Yeah. Jameson Taillon, Javier Assad.
Dude, hey, I have a tie-on jersey. Thank you very much. That's how
Okay.
That's how good he
Wow.
is. I never heard of him. I'm not
Wow.
gonna lie, and I'm a Cubs fan.
And Matthew Boyd, who was actually a revelation last year, but he's 34 years old. So you win 92 games, you spend no money, and you wonder why you're sitting there losing to the Brewers in the playoffs. So the Cubs could, yes, they have a really good collection of young talent with Pete Crow Armstrong and Matt Shaw and Michael Bush and those guys, Nico Horner, Dansby Swans. They have a good young core. And some of those guys are not paying a lot of money. But when that's the starting rotation that you run out and you finish 92-70 and you say, man, why didn't we make a better run at Max Fried, who the Yankees signed, who was, a top 7 or 8 pitcher in baseball last year. I know Corbin Burns got hurt, but make a run at Corbin Burns or Blake Snell or Nick Pivetta. These are guys that signed in the year that the Cubs were going in to compete. And the best free agent signing in 2025 for the Chicago Cubs, that would be one backup catcher or starting catcher, Carson Kelly, for $6 million a year.
Another jersey that I've got. Why are you bashing my guys?
That's just them not trying to compete.
I do have
That's just the Ricketts family being cheap to me.
One other thing on the salary cap, I think if they set a minimum that a team has to spend, there has to be a maximum. Because if you raise it, the minimum, and they have to hit that minimum, they're spending more with less than what the Dodgers are. The Dodgers would have unlimited to do whatever they want. So I think if there's a floor, there has to be a cap.
Yeah, there's definitely a floor and a ceiling. In the NFL, you don't have to spend it all, but you have to hit a floor, and you got to do whatever. In the NBA, you have to do the same thing. Whatever you have to do to get there, you've got to do to get there, and that helps out the players. That helps out, to your guys' points, competitive balance. And you have to get to those situations. Again, you can't have a 92-win Chicago Cubs team making the third most revenue in baseball. Their only free agent signing is Carson Kelly. So that's my soapbox for the Cubs. And, they did go out and they signed Alex Bregman this year. Good for them. What's their pitching staff looking like? I mean, that's where their issues are. And, projected, you have to hope that Steele comes back healthy eventually, but they did trade for Edward Cabrera, who's okay. I mean, he's fine. But it's just a lot relying on Matthew Boyd being still pretty good at 35. Cade Horton being an up-and-coming pitcher, being better than he was last year. Imanaga, I think, just gave up another home run, and spring training hasn't even started for him yet. So It's
I
think
laugh
all we're
because
doing.
it's true.
I think all we're doing right now is avoiding the inevitable of what we have to talk about, and that was the absolute freaking beatdown that Purdue put on Indiana last night.
Now,
And
timeout.
I don't know. You don't. I'm not. You can't take a timeout. I have possession of the ball right now.
All right.
So you can't take timeout. I know that I'm typically the voice of reason when it comes to Purdue on this show, and you can never, and you will never, ever give them flowers other than saying that you do love Matt Painter. There's nothing that you can say about last night that you cannot give Purdue some flowers for last night.
No, I wasn't going to at all. Like, I wasn't going to not say that. Like, I mean, when you beat a team, I don't care if it's, like Maryland is real bad this year. Rutgers is even worse than that. But, I mean, I don't care who you beat down. Even, when you're playing your bye games in your preseason schedule, or pre-conference schedule, I should say. I mean, beating a team by 30 is not easy. And that was an absolute beatdown. But you sent the absolute perfect meme last night, Josh. Because, number one, that team that they just beat by 30 last night, guess who beat them earlier once already this year? That same team. And the salve to put on the wound, Josh, please share.
Well, I don't really care what happens. I mean, I get upset, but I'm pretty sure a month and a day ago, Indiana won a football national championship.
Let me ask you guys. Signetti signed his new contract, his second revision since he's been at IU, because he had a clause that he had to be one of the top 3 coaches. I forget what the qualification was.
They had to
that.
win a national championship, and now he has a clause that for as long as he is employed there, he is guaranteed to be in the top 3 in highest paid coaches.
Well, for me, as an Ohio State fan, I know how the majority of Buckeye Nation is when it comes to Ryan Day, a guy that's 82-11 in his career, and he's a 1 game away from getting fired every time. What is going to be for Hoosier fans if IU starts going 8-4, 7-5? If that happens, I'm not saying it is, but when will it change? When will people change the tune on Signetti? Or is the fact that Indiana won a national championship, and that's all we need to say?
Well, fans are a fickle bunch, as we all know. But as we have said till we're blue in the face, and everybody knows it, losingest program in the history of college football. They had only won 3 bowl games, maybe ever, or something ridiculous, and you have all those stats. I think, given Coach Signetti's age and the fact that, what do you think, Josh? At best, he'll go 10 more seasons. That would put him at 73, I think, 74.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair assessment of it. 10 years
to go from averaging 3 wins a year for basically my entire life, and you'd have a couple blips on the radar, to losing 2 games in 2 seasons and being in the college football playoff 2 seasons, winning a national title in year 2. I think he's got a minimum 10-year runway. And, I know you're not predicting it, but just looking at a 2-year snapshot and what he does, I feel very safe in saying there is nothing about Curt Cignetti, his coaching, his approach to recruiting and to NIL and the transfer portal. I think his worst season will be 2 losses in the regular season. I don't see unless Penn State and Michigan get back to what they normally are, USC, Oregon, teams like that, and IU is stacked with, let's say they have to play Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Oregon, USC, all in the same year. Okay, but on a typical rotation of a Big Ten schedule, I feel very comfortable in saying I don't see for the foreseeable future IU losing more than 2 regular season games. I just don't, because Curt Cignetti has given me that much confidence in what he is able to do that I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're getting to the territory where 9-3 seasons are disappointments, and the college football playoff is just going to continue to expand. It's going up to 16 teams, and the expectation should be to make the college football playoff every year whether it's 12 or 16 teams. And he's paid. We said this a year ago, or when he signed to $8 million going into last year. Now he's up to 13.2. Like, okay, well, Cignetti's paid in the top 10 of coaches. This was at $8 million. They should be top 10 every year. And now that he's paid in the top 3 of coaches, I'm not saying that they should be top 3 every year, but that's what you expect from Ohio State. And he's making more than Ryan Day's making at Ohio State. So Indiana needs to be in the top 10 every year. At worst, top 15 if there's an injury, injury season, whatever. But gone are the days of 8-5 and 9-4 or 9-3 or whatever. Those days are gone, and fans are fickle. Fans can turn quickly, and I don't care if it's Indiana football, Indiana basketball, Purdue football, Ohio State football. It doesn't matter. If you're paying your money to support them and you see that these guys are making a ton of money, if Curt Cignetti happens to go 8-5, 8-5, 7-6, people are going to say, okay, he needs to retire. They're just going to.
Yeah. Let me ask you guys, I read something yesterday, and I don't remember seeing it, hearing it, or reading it before, but Fernando Mendoza was actually trying to call Kirby Smart to commit to Georgia. The call didn't go through. He took that as a sign, waited till the next day, committed to IU. So that national championship was destined to happen.
It absolutely was. I mean, you look at and it just that's such a Fernando Mendoza thing, with all that we've learned about him and the way that he goes about his business and things. Like, he literally took that as a sign that was meant for that to happen. And I mean, couldn't have played out any better. He is going to have a statue right alongside Coach Cignetti's outside of the Rock Memorial Stadium. I mean, I fully expect there to be some sort of, I don't know if it'll be a mural, a statue, or whatever, of him diving across the goal line on that QB. Are we going to call it a QB scramble, a QB
draw?
I don't know, but whatever it was. I mean, it goes down as the biggest play in the history of IU football. That's for sure. I mean, it's right up there with Keith Smart hitting the shot, and from a fan reaction, the Watt shot was huge, but let's be honest, it was still just a regular season game. As much as I love that moment, but I mean, it's so iconic that it's got to be memorialized, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see. I know spring football starts here in a few weeks, but it is basketball season, so we do need to get back. I'd like to get back to that anyway. I mean, where IU's been blown out the last 2 games, and I know this is the start of Darren DeVries's tenure, and he had to put together a staff. He had to find 13 players. He had to do all this, blah, blah, blah. Like, in this era, when does the criticism of DeVries start? Is it next year if they look like they do right now? I mean, look, Indiana is at a place where at home they can beat good teams. I mean, what you see from Purdue is they beat the teams that they should beat by a lot, and they compete with the best teams, but they don't necessarily have the athletes. I think Purdue has a certain ceiling to this year, and it's all based off the draw of the NCAA tournament. Can I see them getting hot and Trey Kaufman-Renn and Braden Smith leading them to an Elite Eight, and then anything can happen? If with the right draw, I see that, yeah. But if they run into teams that have to have some guys on the perimeter and they're a smaller mid-major school and they have to space the floor, and Clough and Trey Kaufman-Renn have to get out and guard shooters consistently at all 5 spots, that's going to be a problem for them. But if they run into the right matchups, they can go to the Elite Eight, and then anything can happen.
As silly as this sounds, because you could say this about every single NCAA tournament, but this is a Purdue roster that is tailor-made to get beat the first weekend or make the Final Four. I don't think there's going to be an in-between. And it will be solely based on their matchups, to your point, Josh. And, yes, I know you could say that. When you're not playing series like you do in the NBA, when it's a one-off game and you've got to be ready to go, I know you could say that about every year. But I really think this is one of those that you get that plucky because they're going to be probably a 3 seed, but you get that plucky 14 that's got a dynamic guard that can score it, and then they got that shooter that's able to stand in the corner, and they got the one big guy who just has old man game, and then next thing you know, it's the perfect storm, and there's Purdue losing their first game again.
Yeah, and here's the examples that I would use. You look at the best team in Indiana modern history, and probably the best overall team
since
2000.
Be careful.
Listen, I've got points here. The best team since 2000. They had a bad draw against Syracuse. They just did. They had smaller guards with Jordan Halls and Yogi Ferrell, and Syracuse had long athletes that played a 2-3 zone. It was a bad draw for them. A couple years after that, when Indiana won the outright Big Ten with Yogi Ferrell and Thomas Bryant and OG Anunoby and those guys, they beat Kentucky with the Watt shot, right? Or no, I'm thinking different. They ran into North Carolina. They beat Kentucky in the NCAA tournament, ran into North Carolina, who steamrolled everybody and played them to a 10-point game. Bad matchup. You go back to 2002, when Indiana made the national championship game. They were a 5 seed. They played a 12 seed. They played a 13 seed. They played an otherworldly second half against number 1 seed Duke and beat them. But then they played a 10 seed in Kent State. So, I mean, that was the draw that you got. And Purdue had one of those draws. And this, I'm not knocking them. I'm just talking about the situation. When Purdue had one of their great teams, I think it was maybe with Carson Edwards, and maybe if Andrew Stewart's listening, he can tell me, but the year that they lost to St. Peter's, like, they had the draw that you wanted. They just ran into a team that had 5 guys that had an unbelievable night, and they spaced the floor. Like, that's what you have with mid-major teams, and that's what can happen. And to your point, they could lose in the first round. I don't see that happening. I think Trey Coffin-Marin is too good. I think Braden Smith is too good. Anything can happen, yes, but they could go to the Final Four if they get the right draw. And yes, you can say that every year about it, but that's typically teams don't run through seeds like they're supposed to, right? If you're a 5, you don't beat a 12, then a 4, then a 1, then a 2. That doesn't typically happen. So, I think even watching that game last night, if Indiana can sneak into the NCAA tournament with the right matchup, they can win a game. They can get hot enough. Lamar Wilkerson is good enough to carry you to winning a game.
I was going to say, he is the type of dude who can win you an NCAA tournament game. And, it kind of goes back to your initial question before you took the off-ramp to Purdue. I still am incredibly bullish on what I think that Darren DeVries can be for IU. I love the actions that he runs and stuff, but you're not going to be an upper echelon Big Ten team when you are competing with a mid-major roster. You're just not. And he signed 3 top 60 guys already, so he's showing that he can recruit. Now, this coming off season, he's got to get more than what do we get? 1 guy from a Power 4 school, Sam Alexis from Florida, because it's going to be a lot like this past off season where he's going to have to. He replaced literally the entire roster because every single guy that played for Woodson was gone, and rightfully so. But I'm in no way discouraged by – now, I hate getting beat by 20 and 30 points in back-to-back games. That's no fun. But I also think that given the right guys, I think that DeVries is going to do – I think he'll do a really good job. I'm going to stand by that until he proves otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, it's just going to be, it all boils down to, for 95% of the teams, who can you get in the portal? And is he good at short recruitments for the right guys? And, I listened to Tom Crean on the Hoosier Hysterics podcast, and it's not necessarily about the highest ranked, and we've said this, and everybody says this, but you have to be, and this is where Cignetti's so good, you have to be able to evaluate if a guy can take a step from the mid-major level to the high-major level. And I think DeVries somewhat underestimated that on a few of the guys. I think his son being one of them. And he's being asked to do things that he shouldn't have to do. The fact that Tucker DeVries is spending 85% of his energy guarding Trey Kaufman-Renn is a joke. Like Tucker DeVries, I know that, we were texting back and forth and we were all frustrated about it. And Trey Kaufman-Renn was making Tucker DeVries look like a little child out there. But Tucker DeVries doesn't need to be guarding Trey Kaufman-Renn. That's not his fault. And that's why I'm not as critical of Tucker DeVries as most in the Indiana basketball fan community, because he's being asked to do things that he shouldn't have to do. And basketball is mainly about putting your players in position to succeed. And Tucker DeVries is not being put in a position to succeed because of the current roster construction.
Yeah, 100% agree. And that's why it's honestly impressive. And I get it. It's Assembly Hall, and it's one of the most difficult places to play. But that's what's impressive about the fact that they're able to beat a Purdue at home and things, because right now they're Miami of Ohio playing an Indiana schedule. Let's be honest. That's what they are. Lamar Wilkerson is the only kid who is showing he's capable of playing an entire schedule at a Power 4 level. Because the other guys have moments. It's not like we're saying they're a bunch of bums and this is Tom Crean's first 2 years where it's a bunch of walk-ons that are in over their head. But water finds its level. And, let's also remember that the past 2 games that IU has gotten beat badly, they've played 2 top 10 opponents in Purdue and Illinois. 2 teams who are going to be in the conversation for definitely being second weekend teams and possibly Final Four teams if the draw falls right for them and their path is paved a certain way. But, from a coaching perspective, if given the players and he's still unable to perform, then by all means get rid of him. But there are so many – when you just take out the fandom and watch the basketball that is played by IU, you see so many good things happening. And so I think, with a proper roster construction, and you already see through the dudes he signed, he wants to get a bunch of dudes – that are anywhere from 6'5" to 6'8" that can all shoot it. And the 3 recruits he already has all fit that mold. Now, they've got to get Power 4 bodies now, but they've got the size, they've got the shooting, and I think when that starts to happen, we're going to be very pleased with Coach DeVries.
You know what that mold is that he's recruiting to right now? It's Creighton. And I'm not saying I think you're getting higher level players than you did at Creighton, but if you watch Creighton under Greg McDermott, if you watch them under Greg McDermott, they're all 6'5" to 6'9" that can shoot it. And if you can get that paired up with a good big that can protect the rim, that can do some things in the post, and a point guard, that's where you have exactly what you need. And last night, to me, you could see the writing on the wall. Look, and I'm not making this as a joke, even though a little bit, I have a little bit of joke in here. The best Purdue class of all time, arguably, was 3-4 against Indiana. Like, they weren't going to lose that game to go 3-5 against Indiana. Like, Braden Smith hates Indiana. Fletcher Loyer hates Indiana. Trey Kaufman hates Indiana, right? They weren't going to go 4-4. And Assembly Hall and Mackey Arena are very similar. Once the ball starts rolling downhill, it doesn't stop rolling downhill. Like, I'm sitting there just hoping that an IU player makes the first free throw, because I know what the crowd's going to do if he misses both of them. And they're like, that's how good the Mackey Arena crowd is. That's how good the Assembly Hall crowd is. And once that ball starts rolling, there's no stopping it. And you better just get off the tracks, because the train's going to run you over. And that's exactly what happened. Again, Braden Smith wasn't going to go 3-5 against Indiana in his career. And they came out and played like that from the start. Like, Fletcher Loyer a couple games ago went 5 of 20 from the field. First off, why the hell is Fletcher Loyer taking 20 shots? But second off, he went 5 of 20 from the field. And last night he wasn't going to miss. You have role players at home that step up. Oscar Mayer, freshman, or Omar Mayer. I was going to call him Oscar Mayer Wiener, but Omar Mayer was unconscious. Nick Dorn did that to Purdue at Assembly Hall. And when you have guys like Trey Kaufman-Renn, and there's no way for Indiana to match that size, and Oscar Klopp, that was going to happen if Purdue started shooting. And you saw that early, and I sent a text about it in our group message. Indiana was doubling Trey Kaufman-Renn after he took his first dribble. Well, what happened? 3 straight threes from Purdue. Okay, well, in what I like to see from DeVries is he's not afraid to switch what the game plan was. And they finally said, okay, well, good luck, Tucker. Like, you're guarding Trey Kaufman-Renn on your own. And that didn't work. So there was just – the writing was on the wall for that game from the start to be a 20 to 30-point win. And to Purdue's credit, they took care of business and did what good teams should do to mid-major rosters. I won't say mid-major teams, but mid-major rosters.
Yeah, and you have to hate losing a game like that when you're trying to recruit players to your school and have a prime time game on an over-the-air network. Doesn't have to be cable. It was on Fox at 8:00 on Friday night, and they get blown out like that. How much of an impact do you think it has as far as recruiting? Any at all?
Zero.
Okay.
Zero. Because I think long gone are the days where you tuned in and you watched and you're like, man, I got to see it. Like, anymore, the two things, and it's going to depend on the kid and the family that they come from and things. The two things kids are going to look at: how much am I getting, and how much playing time is there available for me. That's going to be the top two things on every kid's list, outside of, maybe a handful that really do care about what's my relationship like with the coach and things like that. Like, that's what they all say after they sign. It was just my relationships. Sure it was. It had nothing at all to do with the $150,000 that you get per month or whatever. Like, get out of here with that. They want to see a path to playing time early, if at all possible, and they want to know how much money they're going to get. Games like that have zero bearing anymore on what school a kid's going to choose, I personally think.
My thought on that is, I think relationships do matter, but the relationships are like this. You can't win a golf tournament in the first round, Scotty Scheffler, but you can certainly lose it in the first round, Scotty Scheffler. So the IU didn't 100% lose Braylon Mullins because of, or they didn't get Braylon Mullins, not 100% because of Mike Woodson, but they certainly lost him because of Mike Woodson, if that makes any sense at all. Like, relationships do matter to a point, but to your point, Jason, they're not the end-all, be-all. You can lose a guy because of a lack of relationship, Mike Woodson, but, it's ultimately going to come down to how much money, is there a path to playing time, and how are you developing me, and how are you using me in your system? They go hand in hand.
Yeah, because when you look at that, like, how are you developing me? Because this is the funniest thing, and this is a discussion for another day that we could get deep down a rabbit hole. But 2% of all college athletes, 2% or I'm sorry, 2% of all high school athletes go to a Division I school.
Yep.
They play beyond 2%. Wrap your head around that. But then of that 2%, I mean, what are we looking at? How many NCAA Division I basketball teams are there?
Oh, geez, 361 or
361 times. I think they get 15 scholarships,
Yes. Yeah.
give or take. So you're looking at about 500,000 kids total, right?
50,000.
Yeah. Sorry. It's Greensburg math. You're looking at about 50,000 kids. So 50,000, which was of the 2% of high school athletes, you're probably looking at a fraction
5,000.
You're looking at a
5,000.
fraction of a percent that actually go to play basketball, men's basketball. How are you developing me? So 50,000. How many of that 50,000?
5,000. 5,000.
Good Lord.
Even worse, Greensburg math.
Even worse. So okay, how many of that 5,000 are going to go on to play professionally? 50?
Yeah.
Tops? And I'm not even saying NBA. Like, I'm saying professionally. So of the 5,000, maybe max each year, you've got 50, right?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you say? So what percentage is that? But yet, again, and this goes to the insanity that goes all the way back to youth sports. Well, my kid's going to be the next big one. They're going to play professional. Stop it. Stop it. Knock it off. But you are right. How are you developing me? But now, in saying that, and first of all, let me reiterate, I wasn't saying that relationships aren't important. That was not my intent in saying that. I know that they are, but they're far from the top of the list, right? But I think that idea of developing a kid also in today's day and age has a new look to it. How are you developing me if I'm coming to you at Miami of Ohio, at Ball State, at Austin Peay, at a school like that? How are you developing me so that I can transfer through the portal to get more money? Not even necessarily a professional contract.
100%. And I think where DeVries is at, he has enough tape that he can show kids like, these are the situations that I'm putting Lamar Wilkerson or Tucker DeVries or Nick Dorn or Sam Alexis in. And these are the positions I'm putting Reed Bailey in as a 6'10 big. Like, you're going to be out on the perimeter. And if you can hit shots, you're going to get shots. And if you can be the point forward at 6'10, you're going to be able to do that. And I think he can show guards enough to say, hey, I want you in the Lamar Wilkerson role. Oh, really? You don't care if I shoot it from 30 feet every time down the court? Not at all. You got to make them, but not at all. Okay, yeah, I'm interested. How much you paying me? I mean, those are the conversations, right? So I think he's put enough on tape, enough good stuff on tape that he's going to be able to get those guys into the program hopefully as soon as next year. But, yeah, I mean, ultimately it is how much are you paying me? And can DeVries evaluate who can make that jump from the mid-major to the high major? And, you know, you look at Miami of Ohio, they have a kid from Carmel, Pete Suter, who's a senior now at Miami of Ohio, was a big-time winner in high school and is a great player for Miami of Ohio. He's their best player. I'm not sure he can make that jump to the high major level. That's not a knock on him, but you have so many kids, especially from Indiana, that are super skilled, extremely skilled, but where that 2% falls is they're not athletic enough to get there. And that's okay. I mean, it's not their fault necessarily, but you just can't get there. And, you know, I remember sitting back when Jack going into his freshman year, I'm like, I think he's got a chance that he could play at a small Division I school. And then I watched him play Trey McKinney, who's at Michigan right now, going into his freshman year. And I said, okay, let's focus on Hanover, brother. Because the level of athleticism trumps way more than the skill. You can take guys, the coaches, I feel like coaches believe that they can take athletes with some skill and develop them to high major players as opposed to supremely skilled players with no athleticism. And this is not a knock on this kid. I love him. I know they're not listening, but if they were, I watched Julius Gizzi for 4 years carve up people offensively. But the question that I always had was, who can he guard? And that was his problem, not his fault. But now he's playing on a great NAIA school at Indiana Wesleyan, and that's where he should be. And he's starting for them as a freshman, which is impressive. And he can score, but who can you guard? And that's the biggest thing at the high major level. That's why some of these guys that you see at the mid-major level, you're like, man, they can't guard anybody. But they're scoring 30, well, they're giving up 32.
Yep.
And that's the evaluation that DeVries has to make. And I think that hopefully we see that he can evaluate the talent well enough and pair it up with the money to come in and get this thing turned around.
How much of all these issues that are there, we talked about it being necessary or highly recommended the kids play multiple sports. On the Olympics one day this week, they were showing how the Netherlands trains their athletes. They don't, until the kids are 12, they are encouraged to try every sport. Play everything. We don't care. We don't keep score. We don't do anything. Just go out and play and see if you enjoy it. Then once you get a little bit older, then you start maybe specializing in something. But how young do they start at travel ball now for basketball?
Oh, my God.
It's not just basketball. It's every sport now, because travel sports have become a multi-billion-dollar industry, Tom. It used to be you had your little local travel things, and, like they called it Dirt Road for the boys, and they had IGHL for the girls, and it was hosted at a local high school, and you had your little local team together, and it was fine. You got out of it what it was good for. So I know we have second graders that play, like there is a second grade league, travel league in basketball that they can play in.
Isn't that a problem, though?
Oh, it's unbelievably ridiculous. And here's the issue. And we've talked about, I think we've probably brought this up on the show before. I want you to think about this, and because there's talk in the NBA right now, what is the best American player ranked as far, and this is just an opinion thing. First of all, who's the best American player right now?
Cooper Flagg.
In the NBA. He's the best player in the NBA. American.
Oh, best American player?
Best
No.
American player in the NBA right now.
Anthony Edwards? Jason, maybe?
He's Canadian.
Oh, well, screw that guy then.
How did he play for the U.S. then?
No, he's not Canadian.
No, he's not.
American.
He played
He's
for
American.
Team USA in the last Olympics.
Well, didn't Joel
Yeah,
Embiid play for Team America?
Well,
Team
yeah,
USA?
he's American.
But
I don't know if they
possibly Ant-Man. You could probably still throw LeBron out there. You could throw Steph out there, KD. It's somebody like that, right?
Yeah.
But so the best American player, where are they ranked in the NBA right now?
By the way, I was wrong.
Doesn't happen
Hey, you don't have
often.
to
It's
bring-
okay.
You don't have to bring that up. You
It's
don't have
okay.
to bring it up. We'll just bypass it.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, Luka, Jokic, SGA, right there, top three, right?
Now, SGA,
I mean,
I know is Canadian.
I think-
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah.
I think you could throw Anthony Edwards. He's got an argument for that top three.
He's not better than any of those three.
Well, I mean, in what way?
I'm just saying, in overall, like, he is not better than those three players.
Well,
I
how's
love
he not-
Anthony Edwards, but I am not picking him over any of those three.
How's he not better than Luka? Let's just say. I mean, he's made it further in the playoffs than Luka's made it.
Luka's been to the finals. He went to
Oh,
the
with the Mavericks.
finals
Yeah, he did.
with the Mavericks.
Okay.
But
Well, I'm
anyway,
still-
my point being, now the world has caught up to the U.S.
Oh,
in
yeah.
basketball, right?
Yeah.
The top three players in the league are not American-born. It used to be the best absolute best foreign player might scratch into the top 25.
Yeah.
Might. Now the 3 best, arguably, are non-American born, right? Here's why. Because their model of they have these academies and things for all sports. In the United States, you practice once to play 6 times.
Yeah.
Everywhere else around the world, you practice 6 times to play once. And that is exactly why the world has caught up and now surpassed us in basketball, because they get together, these groups, and they practice and they practice and they practice and they refine skill and they work on all these finer details, and then they go out and they play once or twice on a weekend. They don't practice one time and then go play 6, 7, 8, 10 games between a Friday through a Sunday in AAU. And that is exactly the reason why you see the issue, because then people get caught up in, well, here we started playing in 2nd grade, and this kind of goes back to your point, Tom. We start playing travel in 2nd grade, so that means, well, by the time I get to junior high, this is the one that I need to focus on. No, you don't. No, you don't. And especially in a community like ours, where our high school is just above 600 students, if you are an athlete, you should be playing a minimum of 2 sports.
Yep.
Minimum. Because we just said 2% of all high school athletes, and that's across the country, 2% of all high school athletes are going to go play at the next level. I'm sorry to tell you, all of those thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars that you put in to AAU basketball, to club volleyball, to travel soccer, to travel softball, guess what? For 99.9% of you, your name is not Bryant McIntosh. Your name is not Sean Sellers. Your name is not Andrew Wellage. Your name is not Ryan Wellage. Your name is not Leah West. Your name is not Miley Wilkeson. Okay, there's 6 kids right there. Melina Wilkeson. 7 kids. What do a lot of those kids have in common? They're from the same families, number one. Sam West.
Sports.
Sam West. There's 8.
Yeah.
Yes. So 8. And I think we named like 3 families. They went on to the Division I level, right? That's 8 kids. How many kids have graduated from Greensburg High School since 1920 whatever, when it became a school? 8.
I can't do the
Okay.
math. I'm not doing the math because we will be way wrong.
Yeah. So anyway, and then what did all of them have in common? They all played multiple sports. Because, and take them out of the equation. What you are doing as a parent, you think you're doing the right thing. I'm here to tell you, sorry, Coach Simpson's telling you you're wrong. Because what you are doing is you are robbing your child. And don't forget, in today's day and age of parenting, where our child is this perfect thing and they never do any wrong, and I've got to wrap them in bubble wrap and protect them, and they're the most precious thing ever. Get out of here, first of all. But second of all, you are robbing them of their high school experience by making them specialize. And you can say all you want, well, that's what they want to do. They chose that. No, they didn't. You're the one that signs the check for them to participate in these other things, in the travel stuff. You are the one that does that. You are the one that provides the transportation to and from the practices, to and from the tournaments. You're the one that buys the plane tickets when they've got to go play in Texas and these places like that. You are the one that makes that choice. And you are robbing them of their high school experience, from competing with their classmates that they've grown up with most of the time since kindergarten, their group of friends, and things like that, because you're chasing a dream. For who? For them or for you? Like, well, I didn't do it. Now they've got the opportunity. Let's stop and look at the math. Stop taking your kids' high school experience away from them. And let's go ahead and throw this out here, because we say this all the time. Way to go, Tom. You got me fired up now. And let's not forget Get it out of your head that it's bad for your kid to struggle and to have to sit and wait their turn, because it's gotten to the point now in both boys and girls, if they aren't getting varsity time their freshman year, a vast majority of kids quit. What happened to sitting and working and getting better and grinding and struggling a little bit? You know when your best progress comes? When you struggle and when you fail. That is when improvement happens. That's when you get coached, if you allow yourself to be coached. So let's just stop all of this nonsense. Allow your kid, and look at all of the schools around us outside of East Central. And I think it would be the only one. I'm not going to say every kid is capable, but if you have a kid who is an athlete, they should all be playing a minimum of 2 sports. And I'm not saying don't do travel stuff, but if your travel stuff requires you to miss things for your high school, then you are involved in the wrong travel opportunity and you need to look elsewhere, because shame on those people who are in charge of those groups that ask a high school kid, I say ask them to choose or demand that they choose the travel opportunity over either being involved in the high school sport, or at least let's say, okay, yeah, you go ahead and do that, but I'm going to have to tell you that you need to miss that high school practice or that high school game to come to this. Shame on them for doing that as well. I'm off my soapbox. Somebody else talk before my head explodes.
There's a lot to unpack there. I love it. We're allowed soapboxes. You know why? It's our show. We can say whatever we want. Here's the thing. And of those kids that you mentioned, Jason, or of that 2% that go on and play Division I athletics, you can typically tell that at a young age.
Very young age.
If they have the coordination, if they're going to have the size or the athleticism. Like, you knew that Leah and Sam West were going to be big kids and athletic kids. You knew the Welges were going to be tall and athletic. You knew the Wilkinsons were going to be athletic. Like, you just knew that because of their lineage. You know that at a young age. So the fact that you're specializing in basketball, or up here it's a big thing in hockey, like, kids are going 2 states away at 7 years old to play half ice hockey instead of hanging out with their friends or trying other sports or doing whatever. And, to your point, it's all about the parents wanting to keep up with the Joneses. Well, little Timmy's playing and my son wants to play. I'll look like a bad parent if I don't sign him up, or he's going to get behind, or none of that is true. None of that is realistic. And to your point, you can play travel hockey or basketball or softball, whatever, but you need to play other things.
Yep.
And you need to try other things. And you can try it, don't like it. All right, check that box off. They don't like it, don't want to play it anymore. But you tried it, and you can always say that you tried it. I was terrible at football, absolutely terrible at football. But I played for 3 years, and I would never change that I played for 3 years. My one regret is I didn't play tennis. As much as I love tennis, I didn't play tennis, and I should have. But I played basketball, golf, and football. And I should have played tennis, and I should have continued to play football. But, 5'10", 150 pounds, when our program was losing basically more games than we even played, that was tough for me to talk myself into playing football. But it's all about the parents at 7, 8, 9, 10 years old saying, oh, well, my kid has to play travel sports because their friends are doing it, or because I'll look like a bad parent. When in reality, your kid shouldn't be playing. And to your point, it used to be the best of the best played AAU. Like, the first person I remember playing AAU was Robert Barker. And he played for Bloomington Red, which turned into Indiana Elite. But you know how many kids there were that played on Bloomington Red, and I think there was Bloomington White maybe? There was like 20 kids total in the state of Indiana. Now, because little Timmy wants to play basketball at 10 years old, well, he's on an AAU team. Yeah, he's on the 5th AAU team. he's on the 7th volleyball team, or she's on the 7th volleyball team. Just because you're paying money and playing not in your hometown doesn't mean that you deserve to play on a travel team.
And let's use, like, because you mentioned him earlier, I'm going to use Jack as the perfect example. So you said going into his freshman year, you play a kid who's now a Division I player at Michigan, right? And you knew right away, like, oh, that's a different world. And I don't care how much skill work we do, he ain't going to be that. And Jack is like 99.9% of the athletes that go through Greensburg High School. Great kids, really good high school athletes, right?
Yep.
You tell me, Jack goes to a tryout and makes this travel team that's going to travel across the United States, and he does nothing else other than this, and you dump thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars into this. Jack was still going to go to Hanover to play if he wanted to play. He was going to go to Franklin. He was going to go to Earlham. And it wouldn't have mattered if you played on the best AAU team in Indiana or if you just stayed local and he played 3 sports each season. And that is what it is, and that's what is so frustrating for me, seeing it at a school our size and schools our size all around. Understand, well, my kid has to play this travel so that they can go to college. No, they don't. Because the college that your kid is going to be able to play at will take them if they play 1 sport or if they play 2 sports or if they play 3 sports. So again, please stop taking away from their high school experience, because the school that they are destined to go to, because of most of the time, it's kind of to your point, like with Gizzy, it's not skill related. Now, don't forget, how about you share, Josh, because I know the answer to this question. He's at NAIA, Indiana Wesleyan, which year in and year out is a top probably 10 program in the nation at the NAIA level. Do you want to share with our listeners what accomplishment Julius Gizzy had as a high school senior in the state of Indiana?
Indiana All-Star.
Oh, so he was named one of the top 12 players in the entire state. And where is he playing again?
Indiana Wesleyan.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, look, and you can say this about a lot of kids. Not every kid, but you can say it about a lot of kids, because there are a lot of kids that are 6'8", that can't walk and chew bubble gum at the same time. Okay? But you have to be able to not only marry up skill, but also God-given height and athleticism.
DNA is undefeated.
It is. It is. And, you know, I could sit here and say, man, if Jack was 6'6", he'd be playing at IU. Well, guess what? He wasn't. He was 6'2". So it doesn't freaking matter. Like, you can make your kids as good as you want at a sport, but you can play hockey. But if you're not 5'9" or above, and if you're 5'9", 5'10", 5'11", and 6 foot, you better be the best skater on the ice and physical. But if you're not that, like, you can't play. There's nothing that you can do about that. And Julius Gizzy was one of the best offensive high school players that I've seen live. But guess what? He was 6'3" and not athletic. No knock on him. Not his fault. He maximized everything that he could for himself, and that's all you can ask for from a kid. Maximize the work that you put in and the effort that you put in, and if that's married up with DNA, now you have a chance. But that happens for less than 2% of the kids in the United States.
Yeah. Not just in Indiana or Decatur County, for that matter. Anyway, as you can tell.
Try other sport. If you're listening, try other sports. If you're a parent and you want your kid to play one sport, you're wrong.
Most college coaches say they want players that play multiple sports.
They will recruit a multi-sport athlete over a kid who specializes. Guarantee it. Things being equal, the kid that does multiple sports will be looked at 100 times out of 100 more than the kid that specializes. If everything else is equal across the board, they're going to go with the multi-sport athlete.
Yep.
Plain and simple. All right, guys. Well, man, that 2 hours kind of melted away very quickly. So Beyond the Game brought to you by Batesville Chrysler Dodge Jeep, Gillenhow Funeral Home, Acra Automotive, Decatur County Recycling, Walters Tire, Hamilton Tebby Law Office, and Buy Right Auto. For Josh Lee, Ryan Higginbotham, and Tom Fleming, this is Jason Simpson. We'll see y'all next week.